Thrilled to introduce Dr. Nikole Hollins-Sims, an internationally recognized speaker, author, and facilitator. She served as a technical assistant coordinator for the Midwest PBIS Network and as a special assistant to the Secretary of Education at the Pennsylvania Department of Education. A certified school psychologist and lead author of Creating Equitable Practices in PBIS, Dr. Holland Sims has been widely recognized for her leadership and advocacy, including honors from the American Psychological Association, Cabrini University, and American Association of University Women. And this year, she's also serving as the keynote speaker for the National PBIS Forum, presenting Gonna Fly Now, Honoring the Past, Embracing the Present, and Preserving the Purpose of PBIS. So please join me in giving a warm virtual welcome to Dr. Nikole Holland Sims. And thank you for being here, and I will turn it over to you.
Sounds great. Thank you so much, Sarah. It is an honor and a privilege to be among you today. I am going to be very, very cognizant of my time because I know that you have the opportunity to learn from each other. So I'm hopeful that what I provide and the time that I do have contributes to that and allows for that learning to move forward. So, with that being said, I'm going to jump right in and stick to my time. Stephen knows me pretty well from working together, and I will encourage him to interrupt me and let me know if my time is moving. So, with that being said, let's go ahead and get started. I am so excited to talk to you about staff buy in and shifting mindsets and beliefs. I know, and others of you know, how important it is to get people to share your vision. And so, what I'd like to do really briefly, you had a great introduction about who I am, but I would be remiss if I did not speak a little bit on the personal side. I just want you to kind of know who's in front of you. And so I'm a Pennsylvania girl. I'm in Harrisburg. If you pull out your geography book, I'm in the capital city, which is Harrisburg, about 10 minutes from Hershey, and it does smell like chocolate. I am the wife to Ron, going on 9 years. If anyone's been married 9 or more years, kudos to you. You give me hope that we will make it beyond that point. I am a mommy to CJ. He is a second grader, and he just makes this experience of being an educator through his eyes just wonderful. I'm a puppy parent to Biscuit. I am hopeful that Biscuit stays asleep during my time or he will make an appearance. We'll hopefully not see him. I'm a former cheerleader. I'm an alum of universities in Pennsylvania. I wanted to be Janet Jackson when I grew up. I still want to be her when I grow up. And my favorite color is green. So, just to know a little bit about who I am. The learning objectives for my time with you is to describe the relationship between buy in, beliefs, and behaviors, to talk about the impact of staff mindsets and sense of belonging. That's something I'm really passionate about, and so we'll talk about that in full in the time that I have. And then strategies, hopefully some strategies that you can walk away from my time with you that you can apply moving forward. It was so cool to see the different seasons that you all are navigating, and just want to validate where you are. There's no right or wrong. It's your process, and I'm excited you're going along with it. Wanting you to have sort of a map. I like having maps in front of me. GPS is great, it gets me where I need to go. We need to know how to build the infrastructure for MTSS. And so that's why I'm so glad that you are a part of this series because you are designing just that. So, as you take a look at what our Center on MTSS has created, I love how clear this is. The infrastructure essentially is the house, it's the framing of the house that makes the house livable. Your system is your house. And so, one of the key components that we're going to talk about today is one of the first things you see, which is buy in. And it talks about how do you get people, whether it's students, families, staff members, etc., to understand why your house is designed the way it is and how it can be a livable place for the people that you serve to access and have the opportunity to be successful. I'm going to tell you in a minute why buy in for me is only a part of the process and where we want to take our teams and our systems towards greater goals. And so I say that believe in is more necessary than buy in. Buy in is simply not enough. Buy in will get you in the door. But as we know, anytime you buy something, you can return it or you can opt out of it. We need people to believe in the work that we're doing and want to stick with the work that we're doing. So while buy-in is a nice entryway to make sure we can get them through the door and keep them there, we need people to believe in. So that's the mindset I want you to adopt as we move forward. One way for you to do this as you're navigating the seasons that you just were introduced to or described rather are Cotter's 8 stages of change. And I think it's important to know these 8 stages because I want to validate and normalize that we will all be at different levels in this work, depending on the context that we're operating in. So, the first thing that typically kind of catalyzes your movement is a sense of urgency. That sense of urgency could look different from building to building, from district to district, from county to county. And that urgency could be something as small as test scores. It could be something as small as referral rates. And when I say small, I mean small in the context of a school. On a larger scale, urgency could show up in a district that says we want to do something totally different district wide because we see that we're not getting the outcomes we want. But with that, not only should that urgency catalyze people to movement, it needs to inspire them. And that inspiration has to be driven by passion and purpose and having the opportunity to want to do something different. And that's all well and good, but we need people to do that. So a lot of you have established your teams already. What Cotter would call that is your guiding coalition. Ideally, they're a volunteer network that is created with committed people that really are serving right there, knowing the context, understanding the ebbs and flows, and coordinates, guides, and communicates what we hope to do to achieve our vision. I call this the coalition of the willing. I will say though, you might need a few naysayers on that guiding coalition so that you can understand the perspectives that you may need to navigate on a consistent basis. Once that team is solid, how do you form a strategic vision? And I love how Cotter describes this. He says, clarify how the future will be different from the past. People want to see the change, right? So if you just say, we're just going to do something and we think it will work, people need proof and pudding to believe in it, right? Because what I've been able to see in the work I've been able to do from a PBIS coach at a middle school all the way up to the national level in leading PBIS work at state levels across regions, et cetera, people need to know that the outcome is possible. When they can't see that and they can't see that there is a goal and a vision, it becomes hard for them to jump on board. I was often taught that you focus on the fence. And what does that mean? Essentially, you have your guiding coalition, the people that are bought in, they want to do this work, they share your vision. And then you have that group that is adamantly against everything that you do. And then you have people who are sitting in the middle on that fence, watching both ends to determine which side am I going to jump on. We got to focus on the fence, but we got to have a vision to know where to pull people into. And that's where this volunteer army, that fourth item, comes into play. The guiding coalition, your team, that's fantastic. But if you don't build the network of people who are sharing that vision and want to be on board, that's the fence people, we've missed the mark. So that volunteer army allows us to have large scale change when we are coalescing around a similar goal and a common opportunity. People want to contribute, they want to see it grow, they want the outcomes to look different, and we're all in a collective visioning around what that could look like, sound like, and feel like. So these four are really pivotal to getting that believe in, to stick, to have meaning, and to make impact. There are four more. Remember, I said there are 8 stages that we want to think about. With those 8 stages, those first four, if you don't have them ready and going forward, these next four will be really difficult. However, I want to introduce them to you because if you're in a season where you've had those first four moving and shaking, then you're ready to move forward with these next set. So enable action by removing barriers. What are the things that are getting in your way? I've done a keynote presentation recently where I talk about the Wizard of Oz. And in that theming, I say that sometimes the barrier can be your Wicked Witch of the West. Can you name her? It may not be a person, it may be a thing. It may be time, it may be priority shifting, it may be legislation. What is getting in your way, and what are the things that you have control over that you can remove easily so that people have the opportunity, as it says here, to innovate, to work more across silos and break them down and get impact quickly? Once that happens, how do we celebrate the small things? Those small wins, those small results that allow people to know we're moving in the right direction. I love what it says here. Those small wins need to be recognized, collected, and communicated. On your small team, you may know the small wins. How do you communicate that out to families, students, community members, other staff, so that they realize that the work that you're doing is actually doing what you said it would do? And then when you start to get that momentum and you're moving at a good pace, how do you sustain acceleration, keeping your foot on the pedal, pressing harder after those first successes, building credibility, seeing the system start to shift, and being relentless that this change has to happen until the vision becomes real? Lastly, how do we institute change so it becomes business as usual, the fabric that we do? So we need to articulate, which it says here, connections between how we're doing things differently and the success that we've achieved because we decided to do it differently. Also making sure that we are strong enough not to get bogged down with, well, if we just would go back to how we used to do it, we wouldn't have to put forth so much energy. Complacency is just not viable in the time that we're in, especially when we want students to thrive. We also have to continuously assess our fidelity, which I know that's a part of this work too, and understand where changes may be necessary. Things that did work and allowed us to achieve success constantly need to be evaluated to see what we could do better. A good colleague of mine, she often uses these questions to organize new work or new things that we want to pursue. And those questions are simple. What should we start? What should we stop? And what should we continue? Very simple that you could just apply to any innovation that you're putting forward in systems change. And so, as I think about all of that, how we have to think about people and their need for change and sometimes resistance to change, those 8 steps can help us ground our work and make it viable. One thing we can't ignore, though, is that people are people. And in that, our systems have to be human centered. So, this is a way for us to think about that work. First of all, we have to think about what does this work do in terms of creating access for people to be able to participate and engage. On top of the access, then, how are we creating opportunities for people to access our system and utilize it meaningfully? Lastly, how are we affirming the people that are a part of our system so that they know they have a place? Those 3 are really important to that discussion to ultimately get to the North Star of belonging. When belonging is accessible, opportunities are there, and I'm affirmed, whether I'm a student, a family member, a staff member, I should be experiencing 4 things: appreciation, validation, acceptance, and fair treatment. When those 4 things are happening, then people can actively contribute to the work that's being done. Outcomes are showing us that students want to be more connected to the work that we're doing, and the vision can actually be achieved. Without these components, though, we'll just be moving like a factory, trying to figure out what we could do better. If you think of I Love Lucy, and I'm dating myself now, there's an old clip of a conveyor belt where the chocolate is just moving and we're trying to catch it and catch up to it. Instead of having a systematized process where the chocolate is flowing in a way that makes sense, that it's manageable, and that we're seeing the results that we want. Belonging helps us get there because people have a vested interest then in the work that we're doing. One way to make sure that that happens is through your mission and vision, whether it is your team mission and vision, your district mission and vision, whatever that is. And let me be clear, there is a distinction between a mission, which is how do I get there, and a vision, which is your North Star. I want you to think about this. Has your team established that? Whether it's using your district wide one and making it contextually appropriate to your team? And if so, is it clearly understood? Is it concise? And is it in layman's terms that anyone who comes in and out of that team can easily participate? Has that mission and vision been co designed, or did a certain group of people just say this is what it is? Or did we get the input that we need? Does the team's mission and vision then align to a larger system? Remember the reduction of silos. And then will we always use it to drive our decision making? We know data always has to drive our decisions, but can we put our mission and vision to the test to say that what we did is in complete alignment or represents us in the best way possible? So, as we think about systems, data, and practices, I want to give you the technical start. These are questions for you to think about. At the systems level, do we have a system for supporting evidence based practices? First and foremost, that's that house, the infrastructure. Do we have it? And if we don't, how can we start building it? Are we focused on the wholeness and wellness of our staff? I don't want to neglect that from a systems level. Systems is about adults in schools. If we're not focusing on the wholeness and wellness of staff, our cycle and system will not be productive because people will burn out, there'll be turnover, all of the things that we see in schools across the country. On the data side, do we have a system that allows us to see our data in real time? Or is that timely to access what we need to make decisions? And then do we have the ability to look at different groups and know whether or not those groups are getting what they need? Whether it's students with disabilities or students that speak multiple languages, the list goes on. We have all different types of students in our classrooms. And then at the practices level, do we even know what core evidence based strategies are? And that's not a shame to anyone. It's just that sometimes we don't know what we don't know. So, do we have that repository to know where the evidence sits and how it is best situated in our system? And then, do we have a developed process for identifying what skills and competencies we need to make sure that we can effectively deliver practices? That's the technical part. On the heart part, because it's humanity, it's human centered, at our systems level, is it centered in love and dignity? Do we honor the people we're serving and do we honor each other? Would our students agree that we do that? Would our families say that? Would our staff agree? On the data side, I always encourage humanizing the data. When we have data discussions, it's easy to look at numbers and get kind of fixated on those things, but we have to remember that there's a person that is represented in that number on that graph. How do we think about the stories that are contributing to that? How our communities are showing up and the impact that that has on our families and us as we serve? What are the strengths of our communities? How do we leverage that and not have a deficit thought about what our communities bring? And lastly, with practices, do we listen? Do we believe? Do we validate what we hear and then act accordingly? Not just listening to respond, but to understand. And on the courage side, are we willing to assess what we're doing and say we need change? On the data side, are we operating out of love or fear? Meaning, are we scared to look at certain data sets for fear that we may not be doing the right thing and need to change it? And are we asking ourselves who's getting support or who's getting harmed or excluded? And then on the practices side, and this is a big one, folks, can we let go of our own control to respond and affirm our students and families? We're experts in education. We absolutely are. Our families are what my colleague, Dr. Amira Hill Yancey, would say are the SME of their child, the subject matter expert. Can we give control to share that decision making? We have to be courageous in doing so and being willing to give that control away or share it at least. So the journey begins with the team, and I'm rounding out my time. When you're thinking about what's getting in the way, that wicked witch of the west that's stepping in, that barrier that's not allowing your team to get through those 8 stages of change I talked about. I wanted to offer some strategies. I won't list all of them. You can take a look at them as you're looking now. But the one that I would say is most important is the first one. Step back from certainty and step toward curiosity. When people say things that don't land too well, or and sometimes they don't intend to, but it hits in a certain way, or if you're trying to understand why the team's not moving, ask good questions. Step away from certainty or writing people off and try to understand why they may feel the way they do, or why they're experiencing our team the way they are, or why our staff aren't really believing in this work. Name that. Recognize that it may be showing up for them in a certain way. Talk about it, not with each other in a way that doesn't bring about change, but in a way that actually solves the issue. Identify the actions and then follow through. So, as I leave you today, I want you to think about 3 commitments. Focus on learning more about MTSS in your practice and what it looks like. That's what you're doing now. That's a commitment. Being a part of this series is a commitment. Connecting with your peers and teammates on ways to embed dignity in achieving belonging. I want to talk more about belonging, but I want you to at least get the believe in and the systems change part down first to know then how to embed these things. And your internal work, if you want to know more about belonging, do some self directed learning and engage in some self awareness and how you can be a change agent. With that being said, I think I've met my time, Stephen. I think. Here's how you can connect with me. I am always willing to chat, and I'm hopeful that this was helpful. And thank you again for having me.